So once again, I'll just say welcome everybody to our Q&A session on living untethered and spiritual awakening. I'm good to have everybody here. So I see Paula has her hand up. So please go ahead, Paula.
Thank you, Frank. I just want to start by saying that I'm so grateful for this group and for all of these groups and for what you do. So I was listening to a podcast of Michael's called Experiencing Love and Joy Instead of Fear and Desire. And he talks about, he always says, can you handle it? The mind, the pain, the fear, the anger, whatever is going on inside. Can you just let the mind do what it's doing, and can you let it be? He talks about, can you let it be? And so I've been able to let go of a couple of really big things, but there's still some childhood stuff that keeps coming up. One of them is speaking in public, as I'm doing right now. And so, but I'm able to get behind the feelings and the thoughts, but the feelings and thoughts are still there. So I'm witnessing them, but I'm still feeling them. So I guess my question is, how does feeling or being centered and just letting those thoughts be, how is that helping me? Because the thoughts and the feelings are still there, even though I'm watching them. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. Thank you, Paula. Again, let me share from my own experience. Growing up in a violent alcoholic home, lots of trauma, to the point where I attempted to take my own life. My brother actually ended up taking his life. So that trauma was very present for me most of my life. And as I began really practicing what we're talking about today, it never felt like low-hanging fruit. I'll put it to you that way. When I would consciously sit quietly, for example, a thought or somebody would, even in meditation, let me go there, even in quiet meditation, something about my dad would come up and it would ignite and would be very visceral. I could feel it in my body. I could feel my chest tighten up. I could feel my whole reaction running through emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physiologically. What I found helpful, Paula, was the process of surrender, which Michael Singer talks about. He's not the only one to talk about that. Many, many people talk about that. But let me share with you the following. I started in meditation picturing my dad and dropping into like a deep well, dropping into deep consciousness, if you want to use those terms. All of the feelings that were around him and me and what was igniting within me. And I just let it go. Now, letting go and surrender didn't mean that I raised the white flag one time and that was it. I had a mentor who said to me one time, you may need to raise the white flag hundreds, if not thousands of times, but keep raising it. Because the white flag simply means no more fighting. I choose not to fight. I thought for a while that the white flag surrender meant retreat, pull back from the situation, kind of regroup, get myself centered, get stronger, and come back into the fight again. It took me forever to realize, no, surrender is raising the white flag, unconditional surrender. And I had to do it many, 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 many times. But I'll give you an example. With my dad, what happened, I got an awareness in meditation one day that I had been waiting for him to apologize to me my entire life. I was 66 years of age when this awareness came. And that instead of doing that, I should go to him and let him know that he's forgiven. So he was back in Ireland. I went back to Ireland. I knew it was a really important thing for me to do. And I sat down with him at the kitchen table. I said, Dad, look, a lot of water has passed under the bridge between you and I. And I just want you to know it's okay. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to say. All is well. All is forgiven. And the sense of relief and release of that was profound. I can feel it right now, right here, right now. It did not happen overnight. That's the most important thing I want to say, Paula. It was a continual process of, oh, there's that emotion, there is that thought, bringing awareness to it, and surrendering. I cannot, of my own accord, my mental, this is not going to solve it. This created it in the first place, so the chances are this is not going to solve it. So I had awareness of that, and I kept surrendering. I hope that helps, and please feel free to come back in with any thoughts on what I just said, Paula.
Yes, that does help. I guess I'm a little impatient. So, yeah, just to know that it'll take time and that those feelings are going to keep coming back, and I just need to keep surrendering and letting them go. And so this idea of letting go, I guess that is just being in the witness. I guess I'm a little confused about what letting go
Sure.
means. Yeah.
Yeah, so two things I would say, Paula. The willingness, the intention to let it go. Let's start there. It may not even feel very real, but my genuine intention is to let this go. So let me begin there.
Okay.
And then I will consciously hand it over to the universe in whatever way. When my son, one of my boys, was having huge trouble with alcohol, and it was very dangerous, and it looked like he may die, I started doing that surrender process in the following way. I imaged him as a little baby, and I started handing him over to the universe, consciously in my mind, handing him over. And I did that many, 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 many times. The critical thing that I have found was to, as often as possible, return to the silence. Even in the midst of all of that chaotic, old belief systems, old trauma, old concepts, anytime I was aware, anytime I had awareness, just to come back to the silence. It may be for 5 seconds, but I can return to it over and over and over again. And if you just come with me for 1 second, Paula, just closing our eyes right now, and knowing that all of that is going on, but just to consciously, for a moment, come to silence and quiet stillness. Maybe notice the breath. Even if it's just for a moment, that the practice of that begins to, or has in my case, expanded further and further. It doesn't mean I won't get triggered or something won't happen out there, that I'll be reminded again and again, come home, come back to the silence. I thank you, Paula, for raising.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, helps very much. Thank you.
Hi, Marina, please go ahead.
Yes, I think if it can help anybody at all, and I work on it as well. So I'm glad for the questions in this conversation. I just think that from what I've known through even Eckhart or Michael Singer, that the time between all of that starts to shorten as you practice it more. That it takes a lot of practice, and as you do, that silence becomes easier to to get to. That's what I haven't experienced that. I still have that problem, but I truly believe that it becomes easier as we practice it more.
Yeah, thanks, Marina. Thank you for that. As a piano player, which I've spent most of my life as a working musician, I know the following. If I don't practice, and I mean right to today, and I've played for, wow, the best part is 60 years I've been playing piano. If I don't practice, within a very short space of time, I'm going to notice that something is different with my playing. Within a month or so, my wife's going to be saying, you know what? Your piano playing is not what it used to be, right? So it's just a beautiful reminder of what you just shared, Marina, that the commitment to practice is a really important factor in all of this. Again, Michael Singer, I think it was just last week in our book study, the power of intention, the importance of intention. The reminder, the one thing I do with intention is the following: to remind myself over and over again, there is no thing more important in my life today, right here, right now, than what we are doing right here, my spiritual well-being, the walk to liberation, the walk to freedom, the practice of what we're talking about right here, right now. And simply as, 70 plus year old man right now, if not now, then when? This is it. Dress rehearsal is over. We're on stage right now. This is the real deal. Yeah, thank you for that beautiful reminder, Paula. I see Mary's hand. Please go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, question. I have been in my 11th year in my AA program. And no matter how old you are, it's still 11 years in the AA program to remind yourself of that. That I finally had somebody say that it took her 10 years for her personality to catch up with her AA program. Everything had been bubbling up, because I noticed that for 10 years I was busy with looking at my patterns and all that stuff. And now that there's more of a silence there, being in this program since I've been here, the heart and the soul, that it shifted somewhat into a lot of this. There's a lot of awareness has come up around the patterns, but it's a whole deeper awareness, and there's a lot of sadness and pain that like I still think, well, after 10 years, how come that magically has appeared? How come it didn't happen before? Well, it did happen before, but not to the same degree. And it grips the heart and the soul, and it's like you trying to grasp how that's so, and what is your purpose and all that stuff. And it's a new reality, and it's very shaky about how it's sitting with me. It's not like I'm hearing something and you say, okay, that makes sense, or all that stuff. It's some deeper of something that I don't quite grasp. The tears are not that far away at times. And like today, I had a dental appointment. I was going to extract some teeth, and I just couldn't go. I couldn't face the trauma. And then I got very upset with myself. I said, my God, you can't keep I just couldn't. And I had to talk to the dental student, and I realized he'd set it up and everything, but my own integrity wise, he said, well, you can come later and we'll do da da da. I said, no, I cannot. I really feel my head is in such a place. There's so much anxiety. It's more than just the teeth, obviously. It's losing of something, and it's bringing up all kinds of things. And usually I could shrug it all off and keep keep moving to the beat of, yes, you said it in all my programming, yeah, you should do it. But something else is creeping in, and in my program and my way I understand life, something that's calling a different way of being, to be able to be with all of it. And that's where I'm at with all that right now.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. First of all, congratulations on 11 years. It's a remarkable thing that you've done there. Secondly, the realization that it's a spiritual path. You know, one of the things I love about the AA program is that it's a spiritual program, and it very openly states that. You know, two things that always come to mind from it. In the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Commitment, intention, there it is again. You know, and then it also says, do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is, we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. I quote that a lot because it's so relevant to what we're talking about today. You know, that this telling me, if I'm not going to do this perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. I can't tell you how many times in different scenarios, different circumstances, I've said something akin to that. Back to Michael Singer, the low-hanging fruit. We start with what's simple and what's right in front of me. You know, I used to joke when I started this out probably 6 years ago with Michael Singer. I was driving in and out of San Francisco, where you happen to live now, Mary, and it was on 101 coming in from the North Bay, and it's chaotic. That road is absolutely chaotic. And I used to get very upset because a lot of times I was getting cut off. And then I noticed that I was getting cut off continually by a white Ford F-150. And my mind started thinking, it's the same guy every time that's cutting me off. Right? Low-hanging fruit. I began there. I was telling my friend Ed one day about that, and he said, you know what? I drive that same road, and that never happens to me. And I said, what do you mean, Ed, it never happens? He said, you know why it never happens to me? I said, no. He said, because I let him in. I just let them come in. I'm like, oh my God. There it is, the reminder of what was going on. So I see anything resembling a Ford. It may not even be a Ford, but here comes the white Ford truck. And just like Michael describes in the book, my mind is off and running. This guy's going to cut me off. I'm not going to let him cut me off. No way. He's not going to get away with it. Who does it? Etc. Etc. Old belief system, old trauma, just what we were talking about a few moments ago with Paula. Something ignites and we're off and running. Now comes the awareness, which I hear you saying over and over again, Mary. That beautiful sense of awareness. I'm aware of what's going on, because for so much of life, there was no awareness. It was just reaction, 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 reaction. Igniting, spontaneous ignitions going on all the time. And definitely the first part of that beautiful process that Michael Singer talks about is awareness of what's actually happening. Oh, look. There it is. I just got triggered again. It's that white Ford. Actually, the realization, it's a Dodge. It's not even a Ford right now. And I'm getting upset with the wrong vehicle. Simple things, beginning with simple things. I'm grateful to have you as part of our Sangha, Mary. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being openly and honest. I wish you well with the dentist. I just went through that oral surgery, as you know, just a couple of weeks ago, and I did not like going there, and I could feel all the resistance that was in me, and yet It happened. I brought with me when I went a set of headphones and I listened to Michael Singer throughout the entire process. So just a suggestion there. That helped a lot. Okay, here we go. Lisa, please go ahead. And I see Mickey as well.
Hi. What I was thinking while y'all were talking is that when people are honest, everybody has had a rather difficult life. There is so much disappointment about how we think things should have been, how our parents should have been, how we should have been as parents. And it's really easy to want to feel like a victim. I mean, I feel a pull that is more than intellectual to, there's something in me that really enjoys thinking of myself as a victim. And if I, I live on the best planet in a really safe country, I am well, I'm safe and I have people that love me. I'm really a very lucky person if you look at it, if I compare myself to the rest of the world, but I'm just puzzled by that desire to be sad. And it's all consuming, it comes through my chest and I know I can work on it. And that's when I need to go and meditate and get centered and stop my brain from talking about what my mother did to 60 years ago. But I try to think, why does that feel like a normal state? Why do I want to be there? And the only explanation I can come up with is that maybe I only let myself reach out to people when I'm unhappy. And that if I'm happy, I don't really feel much connection with the world because, you don't go up to people and say, oh, I'm so happy, let's talk about your mother. You go up to people and say, I'm really depressed, let's talk about you. And I don't know. I just wonder if there's more connection when you're sharing your pain. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Gosh, Lisa, so much of my life was exactly as you described, the victim, the story. And it's quite a story. It is quite a story, right? It would make a great movie one day. And the realization, again, thank you, Michael Singer, and some of the other masters, the realization, I am not my story. It's a story. It happened, it's relevant only in this one sense today. The gift of the pain has brought me to where I am today. The gift of that entire thing. I remember I'm being slow to talk about it in relation to my brother taking his life. I felt guilty because I had this deep sense a couple of years after he died that he had given me an incredible gift. Because the awareness that was flooded into me as a result of him dying was profound. And it brought me to deep surrender. And then it felt like you can't really say that about your brother dying. And yet I knew that was the truth. The gift was in what was given to me. I sensed then that it was important to let go of the story. Again, just to clarify, except in that one sense where if I'm sharing it with another human being who's struggling, then it's relevant to say, look, this is what happened. This is what I came through. And this is where I'm at today. Then it becomes relevant, but I am not my story. Again, the moment, and thank you for bringing that up, my mom and my dad, oh my gosh, so many times I wanted to talk about my dad. I don't know about your dad, but you got to hear about my dad. Right? It seems ridiculous to me now. It really does. And yet what has happened through this process, I have now a deep compassion and understanding for that man that was not present before. And again, I'll finish with this because I want to get on to other people. The continual returning over and over and over and over again to this moment, to come back to the practice of stillness and silence, alleviates and puts all of this into perspective for me, even if it's just for a moment. Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Mickey, please go ahead. And I see Camilla coming in too. So please go ahead, Mickey.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to talk about letting go and the expectation that I think I know I had, where I thought that letting go meant that I would no longer feel what I'm letting go of. And I've come to realize, and it was in one of Michael Singer's talks. I listen to one every day, so I don't know which one it was. But he finally said, this doesn't mean that you don't feel what you're letting go of. So it has been such a big awareness for me to immediately, when I realize my samskara has been triggered, I immediately go to let go and relax. But I understand and accept that I am still going to feel this because it's an energy. It's an energy that needs to move through the body. And now I can actually step back and observe me, Mickey, going through and feeling this energy that has been triggered move through the body. I can watch her allow the energy to move through, because that's exactly what it's doing. So like he says, a samskara gets triggered, it comes up, it was stored in pain, it's going to leave with pain. So I have to watch her allow that to go through. So it's a surrendering of the resistance to that feeling. I'm not resisting it, I'm allowing it, it's there. And I trust and believe, and I know that energy constantly moves. So this is now in my body. I have brought it up, I've acknowledged it, I see it, and now I have to watch it move through the body. And sometimes it takes all day. Sometimes, it goes quickly, but either way, then I can do practices like just, have some tea, take a bath, do things that just calm the body as that energy moves through. And that has been such a big, relief really to me, because I felt such pressure, like, oh, I need to let this go. I'm still feeling it. And it brought on like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing it right. And then it was like, oh, but I'm not gonna, if I don't feel it, then I'm kind of bypassing it, or I'm resisting it, or I'm stuffing it back in. So this new understanding that I've come to has just helped so much, and it brought such clarity now and more grace as I move through things that bring up the samskaras. So I just wanted to share that recent insight. So thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. I really appreciate you saying that surrender the resistance, and yeah, that's that exact realization that samskaras. I'm going to get triggered. Stuff's going to happen. It's going to happen. I always am afforded the opportunity of awareness to realize what's going on. Oh, there it is. There's that white Ford F-150 one more time. Now, can I sense my resistance, and can I let go of that? Can I sense that resistance? Or in a marriage situation or relationship, that simple thing of, gosh, I wonder why my wife's speaking to me like that right now. Because then it can go to, she's no right to talk to me that way. Why is she doing that? Here comes, wait a minute. There it is. Something is ignited. There's an old belief system. There's an old samskara. There's an old wound igniting right now. Surrender the resistance to that. Allow it to pass through. And many times, Carrie and I have an agreement with each other that anytime we feel that, we openly, to the best of our ability, share it with each other. I'll come, look, I just got hit. I just got triggered again. And I just want you to know it's nothing to do with you. It's just my own stuff coming up. And in that too, I also noticed that in that open, honest sharing, there's a great sense of passing through. It doesn't have that power It doesn't have that hold on me as I surrender the truthful reality of what's going on for me. Yeah, thanks, Mickey. I really appreciate that. And Mel, please go ahead if you'd like to say something or ask a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Thanks, Frank, and thanks to Mickey too, and to Lisa, who opened up some kind of discussion around victimhood. And I think, it's a really interesting, really is an interesting kind of area for me, and I want to talk about my own experience with it and just how it's been for me, because the legitimacy of victimhood is something that so many of us experience as human beings. And I know that's been how it has been for me. So there's an initial kind of legitimacy around being a literal victim. And then over time, I think kind of like that became embedded in me, so that it became a template for the way that I viewed the world. And it became a kind of a default position that was really, really comfortable to stay in. And one of the things that I've really been able to kind of look at with that dynamic, that is an internal dynamic, it has very little to do with the past in the end, because the past is gone. It's like, so it's this kind of constant one. For me, it was attachment to the story. And as Frank was talking about before, very eloquently, attachment to the, and that Michael Singer talks about, attachment to the story, attachment to this kind of charging kind of narrative of my personal life and what happened to me. And I live a life that's kind of like very different to my upbringing and my childhood and stuff. Like, I come from a very strong Irish Catholic background, so I'm in good company here, because there seems to be a lot of Irish Catholics in this group. And my father was sent to the Vatican to train there, so he was the eldest son, and he didn't have a childhood. He was put in the seminary from Australia at a very early age, and he went through. So I basically got brought up or fathered by someone who behaved like a priest. And I had uncles who were priests as well, and aunts who were nuns, and very, very steeped in that. And that story is fascinating to me today, and a real gift. And it's a great thing, it really is. Like, there's wonderful stories. There's a lot of pain as well. There was a lot of difficulty. But I think what's really interesting is seeing the residual way that plays out for me. And I think the woman, Lisa was talking before about why is it connection that I want, that my victim story leads me to connection? And kind of, for me personally, it has, and it's like, it led me for many years into a space of kind of, it was really about attachment and poor attachment and trauma bonding, and being kind of very lodged in this place that, which is ultimately about attaching through samskaras with others. And we can get kind of stuck there. I got stuck there for years, really, really stuck there. One of the things for me with victimhood as well is that so long as I was a victim, and I can go back in there, but not so much these days, I really was able to perpetuate blame and not take on any accountability for my own behaviours or for the way that I was operating in the present. And that was and is, like, it's still something that I've really got to watch and look at. But if I'm a victim, I can blame, and it's the negation of any accountability that I have for my actions, behaviours, thoughts. And I think so, what I love about Michael Singer's approach and the group here, and Frank's discussions that he opens up to us around is that we're kind of really all, it seems, in a place of attempting to move beyond this stuff in a way that's really, really beneficial and very, I think, very authentic and very real. So, if I'm in victimhood, I'm staying stuck, and I'm refusing or kind of, I'm refusing or refuting like samskara release. It's just like I'm just blocking it off. So anyway, that's my take on it. That's what I've experienced. And I'm still doing it, and I'm still learning, and I'm still going there on a daily basis to work on it, which is fun. It's okay, you know. So thanks.
Thanks, Mel. I really appreciate you sharing that. One of the beautiful things I learned from my dad, as I look back on it now, he was very involved. He got sober when I was, I think, around 20 years of age. So he was sober a long, long time. When he passed away, he had 54 years of sobriety. And in that time, he did a lot of good work. He sponsored a lot of people into sobriety. He talked at international conventions. He was all over the place, very involved, a member of on the board of the Irish Mental Health Association. And yet, at home, it was a nightmare. And when my mom was dying, I actually had to take him out of the hospice. She was in hospice. I had to take him out of the room because he was shouting and screaming at her. And the real lesson, beautiful lesson for me in all of that is, if it's not real, you know, just like you mentioned, Mel, if it's not real, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to be talking to talk. I don't want to be talking to talk. And the beautiful thing with our group is certainly authenticity. I see that over and over and over again. That the story, you know, I saw him, and I take it as a gift today, the lesson. I saw him live his story, because that's how he was getting energy from other people, how he was feeling okay about himself. And yet he wasn't okay. The reality for me today is, just like you said, I am not my story. I'm not, my story's there. Whatever happened, happened. That's exactly the deal. Whatever happened, happened. It doesn't alter the fact that right here, right now, here I am. You know, I'll finish with this today in line of what we're just saying right there now. Again, from Ramana: fixed in silence, established in the inner I, you can be exactly as you are. Fixed in silence, established in the inner I, you can be exactly as you are. So again, letting go of the story, realizing that in this moment, there's only right here, right now. The I is just stillness and silent. You know, there it is again, just returning again, no matter what has gone on before, returning again to that moment of stillness and silence. I simply notice my breath. All is quiet. And that gift, that reality is always available to me. Again, I'm back to intention. Is my intention to be fully absorbed in this reality? And if it is, then I just practice going back to it over and over and over again. And it doesn't mean that, you know, these belief systems won't erupt sometimes. It doesn't mean I won't get triggered. It doesn't mean an old samskara is going to ignite. All of those things will most likely happen. Yet the reminder is simple. Always, the reality of the silence is here, and it's now, and it's always available. It's always real. It was here before birth. It will be here after death of the physical body. That spirit is intact here and now. Well, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody for being here today. Great discussion, great questions. I really appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to be here. And as I said, we'll get this section recorded. It has been recorded. I'll get it up on YouTube probably sometime later today and available to our group. We'll be back again on Saturday with our Untethered Soul book study group, followed by our meditation, and on Sunday with Living Untethered book study group, and also followed with our meditation. Namaste, everybody. I wish you all a beautiful, peaceful day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shanti,
Thank
Shanti.
you. Thanks to all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.
Bye.